And now, a KFKX specialty show, Easy Vegetarian.
Okay, so my name is Judson Bisher. I'm filling in for Autumn Conley for Easy Vegetarian because she's starting to lose her voice. But I've been with you the last couple episode or radio segments, so I guess you're familiar with me. Today we have our guest Diane Beachley, who is the nutrition professor on campus, correct?
Yes, I'm an adjunct instructor and I teach the nutrition class.
Okay. And so we just have her here to talk a little bit about vegetarianism and nutrition and what nutrition is like for vegetarians and other things like that. So I guess to get started, do you have anything that you want to say specifically about vegetarianism and nutrition? Any important things?
There's a number of different types of vegetarians, so maybe we should start with the different types of vegetarians.
So maybe we could start with vegans first.
Okay, so vegans have the strictest diets.
Yep.
They don't want anything that has meat animals in it either. So they're the ones who have to be the most careful and take certain supplements to make sure that they're getting all the nutrition that they need.
Mm-hmm. And I guess next we could talk about pescatarians.
Okay, well, pescatarians would be adding some fish to their diet.
Yep.
So, and fish has been shown to have, many health benefits as well. So that's a good component to have in your diet too.
What is it the alpha or the omega-3 fatty acids are in fish?
Correct. There's DPA and I can't think of the other name, but those are really good. Possibly even help prevent cancer, maybe lower your risk of heart disease as well.
Okay, and where would, for example, then vegans get sources of omega-3 if they are not eating fish or other types of vegetarians who aren't pescatarians?
That is a great question. So there are some, places they can get it if they were, if they were eating eggs. That that would be sometimes they'll add that to the diet. But they could be getting the correct omega-3s by adding flax to their diet as well. But usually they're going to be taking some type of a supplement to help get that in their diet. And
then, so flax, is flax seeds, that's the only way I can think of to get flax? Are there other ways, or?
There's also seaweed that you can, does contain some of that, so you can get it also from a certain seaweed, but you have to go out of your way as a vegan.
Yep. Okay. I guess we can also talk about lacto-vegetarians or lacto-ovo-vegetarians.
Okay, well, the lacto-ovo-vegetarians would also be eating dairy products and eggs as well in their diet.
So they'd be getting more vitamin D then, perhaps?
Well, yes. If they're drinking milk, then milk has vitamin D added to it. So they would be getting the vitamin Ds that they need, as well as, other protein, and that also contains more calcium as well, so they don't have to worry about calcium as much either.
What exactly does vitamin do for the body?
Vitamin D?
Yes.
Well, vitamin D is one that your body actually can produce that if you're out in the sunlight. So if you're out in the sun, you're able to. So So vitamin D is important for like bone development. It's also works with the calcium and some of the other ones for bone development. It's also one that doctors are encouraging more, that you get more intake of vitamin D because it's possibly helps prevent cancer. Some of the research is starting to show that might be a good thing, and it helps with your immune system as well. So sometimes, we think that reason people are getting ill more often in the winter is, you're not getting the sunshine and your vitamin D increases as well. So vitamin D is an important vitamin.
Okay. And then I guess we could just talk about vegetarians in general, just about what they're lacking, what they might be getting more of as compared to omnivores.
Well, vegetarians, some people really worry about them that they're not getting enough protein in their diet, but they're able to get plenty of protein from plant sources. They just have to make sure they're including that in their diet. They're Also, in general, usually they're healthier than, meat eaters.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that is, they're eating more plant-based food and, fruits and vegetables as well as whole grains in their diet. But also vegetarians tend to, if they're going to the trouble to have a vegetarian diet, then usually they're also health conscious in other ways. So they're more likely to exercise. So they have lower rates of a lot of diseases like heart disease, cancer, and some of it's because they're eating the healthier foods as well.
Okay, so just another question then relating to protein. What differences are there in getting protein from nuts, legumes, what other areas that besides meat? Like what are the differences between getting proteins from those sources and then from meat sources?
Well, meat is a complete protein. So if you're eating meat, you're getting every essential amino acid that you need. Whereas if you're having nuts, you want to make sure you're, including other varieties of food as well,
Yeah.
so that you're getting the full complement and complete amino acids that you're needing for your diet.
Okay, what are your thoughts on things such as Greek yogurt, where perhaps there's lots of protein in them, or other perhaps tofu, other sources of food that aren't typically thought of as containing protein, but do contain a lot of protein, and perhaps might have protein added to them more for the sake of there being more protein?
Well, tofu is just made out of soybeans, and
Yep.
that's a legume, and it's an excellent source of protein as well. Greek yogurt, is that
Yeah.
not dairy yogurt?
It's drained through a cheesecloth, so it gets rid of like the excess fluids that regular yogurt has, and like regular yogurt usually has about, I think it's like maybe 4 to 7 grams of protein, and then you can find Greek yogurt with 20 and above grams of protein.
Okay, well, that would be, another excellent source of protein, especially if you thought your diet wasn't getting enough protein. Some diets, maybe that would be a little too much, because the American diet, the people who are eating meat are getting plenty of protein, whereas usually it's more than enough, more than the recommended amount.
Would you say that getting protein from non-meat based products is healthier for a person than getting them?
I would say that they're both good ways to get your protein, and it's just the overall, and you can even have a healthy meat-based diet. But it's just that vegetarians tend to be, more concerned about getting enough fruits and vegetables and whole grains, just a better overall diet that helps protect them against diseases, as well as maintaining other healthy lifestyles.
Okay.
The exercise.
Okay, another question. I guess just very generally, could you talk about vitamin B12? Because I know when I first started vegetarianism, that was the thing that I was most worried about, because the side effects of not getting enough sounded really terrifying.
Correct. So that's a very good question. If you are a vegan especially, you need to make sure you're getting plenty of vitamin B12, because it's only available from meat sources, or if they're adding it to the diet. And sometimes elderly people aren't getting enough vitamin B12, and they'll sometimes be misdiagnosed as being, sort of having signs of dementia or something, where it was actually they were deficient in vitamin B12. So, yeah, you want to make sure you're getting plenty of vitamin B12 if you're a vegetarian or a vegan.
Yeah. Because some of them were like memory loss, irreversible memory loss, of course, and other things that sounded very scary. So, next, I guess, what are your thoughts about taking a multivitamin? I know I've heard some people are against multivitamins, or some people are against whey protein or other sources like that because they're not necessarily natural.
Well, the trouble with any kind of a supplement, you have to make sure that it's coming from a really reliable sources, because the supplement industry, is not really regulated by the FDA. They only have to have the ingredients that they list on the label. And so you have to be, careful that they aren't contaminated or something. So they could be, not so good for you in the long run. as far as whey protein, you can get any source of protein would be better than whey protein. And sometimes, again, you have to worry about getting a really good source for some of those. And probably the best person to recommend those would be your personal physician, who could tell you what, were the best brands to buy of vitamins. Oftentimes they're up to date on what brands to buy.
So you're suggesting whey protein isn't the best way necessarily?
No, it's the same as any, you get your protein from any source. You don't need to be using whey protein.
Okay. Could you talk about your choices in your eating lifestyle?
Sure. So I was raised on a farm myself, and, had 4-H baby beef projects and, raised cattle. It was a farm. We had cattle, corn we fed to the cattle. And, it was just the conditions that the animals were raised under were very ethical. My father wasn't really sympathetic to the animals, but they were taken very good care of. And, he was also careful about, if an animal got sick, you treated that animal. You didn't treat the whole herd. So I have some issues with sort of the corporate farming that we have now. Things, and especially, it's just been shown by research that, are resistant to antibiotics, that they can have traced that back to, being animals that were in the confined animal feeding operations. We're giving antibiotics over time that led to them developing resistance. And we need to have, antibiotics for humans, and, and we've developed that resistance. And it's also, the bigger lots, and then, the manure that the animals in our farm, generated was put back on the crops. Was a nice cycle going around. Whereas when you have those big feedlots, oftentimes that runoff runs into the streams, and you change all those organisms. You don't have the healthy organisms anymore. You have the not so good ones. And if you aren't letting that manure sit long enough, and you put it on the fields, some of those same antibiotics are not so good for the crops that are growing there as well. So it's sort of environmental rationale behind that. And and I still will eat, a free-range turkeys at, Thanksgiving, or if, it was other meat, I would certainly eat that. But I did sort of get away from it, so it would be harder to go back now.
Have you heard of the CSA, the new one that just arrived in town?
The community
supported agriculture, yep.
I'm not aware of the new one in town.
Oh, okay. Or maybe it's not new, 26th Street Farm. Maybe it's... I've just heard a lot of professors have been getting into it. I was just wondering.
Oh, okay. Well, I, like that type of farming because of the way I was growing up, and appreciated some of that more. So I keep track of, the Nebraska Sustainable Ag Society and what's going on their website. I haven't done the local one as much as I should. I'll have to look into that. And, sometimes they have, they'll bring around a box of vegetables, or you can pay into some of those, and they'll bring your vegetables. And that would be just wonderful. I do make sure that I support our local farmers market and buy my vegetables there in the summer. I have a little bit of garden, but I like to buy that. And I would, prefer a little bit of pesticides versus, all totally organic, as long as I'm buying local too.
Okay. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Okay. So this finishes the final segment for Easy Vegetarian. Thank you for coming, Diane Beachley.
Oh, thank you.
And that's it. Thanks for listening.
This has been the specialty show Easy Vegetarian on 90.1 KFKX.